Okay, today is the 26th of August, and we are on the Bojjhanga Samyutta. Now we come to Sutta 46.52. Then in the morning, a number of monks dressed and taking their bowls and robes entered Savatthi for alms. Then it occurred to them, it is still too early to walk for alms in Savatthi. Let us go to the park of the wanderers of other sects. Then those monks went to the park of the wanderers of other sects. They exchanged greetings with those wanderers, and when they had concluded their greetings and cordial talk, sat down to one side. The wanderers then said to them, "Friends, the ascetic Gautama teaches the Dhamma to his disciples thus. Come monks, abandon the hindrances, the corruptions of the mind that weaken wisdom, and develop correctly the 7 factors of enlightenment. We too teach the Dhamma to our disciples thus. Come friends, abandon the 5 hindrances, the corruptions of the mind that weaken wisdom, and develop correctly the 7 factors of enlightenment." So friends, what here is the distinction, the disparity, the difference between the ascetic Gautama and us, that is, regarding the one Dhamma teaching and the other, regarding the one manner of instruction and the other. Then those monks neither delighted in nor rejected the statement of those wanderers. Without delighting in it, without rejecting it, they rose from their seats and left, thinking, "We shall learn the meaning of this statement in the presence of the Blessed One." Then when those monks had walked for alms in Savatthi and had returned from the alms round, after their meal they approached the Blessed One. Having paid homage to him, they sat down to one side and reported to him the entire discussion between those wanderers and themselves. The Blessed One said, "Monks, when wanderers of other sects speak thus, they should be asked, 'Friends, is there a method of exposition by means of which the 5 hindrances become 10, and the 7 factors of enlightenment become 14? Being asked thus, those wanderers would not be able to reply, and further, they would meet with vexation. For what reason? Because that would not be within their domain. I do not see anyone, monks, in this world, with its Devas, Mara and Brahma, in this generation with its ascetics and Brahmins, its Devas and humans, who could satisfy the mind with an answer to these questions, except the Tathagata or a disciple of the Tathagata, or one who has heard it from them. And what, monks, is the method of exposition by means of which the 5 hindrances become 10? Whatever sensual desire there is for the internal is a hindrance. Whatever sensual desire there is for the external is also a hindrance. Thus, what is spoken of concisely as the hindrance of sensual desire becomes by this method of exposition twofold. Whatever ill will there is towards the internal is a hindrance. Whatever ill will there is towards the external is also a hindrance. Thus, what is spoken of concisely as the hindrance of ill will becomes by this method of exposition twofold. Whatever sloth there is a hindrance. Whatever torpor there is also a hindrance. Thus what is spoken of concisely as the hindrance of sloth and torpor becomes by this method of exposition twofold. Whatever restlessness there is a hindrance. Whatever remorse there is also a hindrance. Thus what is spoken of concisely as the hindrance of restlessness and remorse becomes by this method of exposition twofold. Whatever doubt there is about the internal is a hindrance. Whatever doubt there is about the external is also a hindrance. Thus what is spoken of concisely as the hindrance of doubt becomes by this method of exposition twofold. I'll stop here for a moment. So here he has broken like this sensual desire, ill will and doubt. These 3 things, Buddha has said, if it is directed towards the internal, it is counted as 1. If it is directed towards the external, means outside of ourselves. Internal should be our own body. External is outside, concerning other bodies. So one becomes two, and then for the sloth and torpor, he breaks it up into sloth one and torpor another. Then similarly restlessness and remorse. And what monks is the exposition by means of which the 7 factors of enlightenment become 14. Whatever recollection there is of internal Dhamma is the enlightenment factor of recollection. Whatever recollection there is of external Dhammas is also the enlightenment factor of recollection. Thus what is spoken of concisely as the enlightenment factor of recollection becomes by this method of exposition twofold. Stop here for a moment. Here it is things internal. The Pali word is ajatang Dhamma. So it is internal Dhammas. And then the things external is Bahida Dhamma, external Dhamma. So internal Dhamma should be Dhammas concerning ourselves, our body. And external Dhamma is concerning others. So whenever one investigates internal Dhamma with wisdom, examines them, makes an investigation of them, that is the enlightenment factor of investigation of Dhamma. Whenever one investigates external Dhamma with wisdom, examines them, makes an investigation of them, that is also the enlightenment factor of investigation of Dhamma. That's what is spoken of concisely as the enlightenment factor of investigation of Dhamma becomes by this method of exposition twofold. Whatever bodily energy there is the enlightenment factor of energy or energetic effort. Whatever mental energy there is also the enlightenment factor of energy. Thus, what is spoken of concisely as the enlightenment factor of energy becomes by this method of exposition twofold. Whatever delight, piti, there is, accompanied by thought, directed and sustained, is the enlightenment factor of delight. Whatever delight there is, without thought, directed and sustained, is also the enlightenment factor of piti. Thus, what is spoken of concisely as the enlightenment factor of piti becomes by this method of exposition twofold. Stop here for a moment. That day we discussed that spiritual delight or rapture refers to the first jhana and the second jhana. So in the first jhana, piti is accompanied by thought, directed and sustained. Whereas in the second jhana, it is without thought, directed and sustained, vitaka and vichara. Whatever tranquility of body there is the enlightenment factor of tranquility. Whatever tranquility of mind there is also the enlightenment factor of tranquility. Thus what is spoken of concisely as the enlightenment factor of tranquility becomes by this method of exposition twofold. Whatever concentration there is, accompanied by thought, directed and sustained, is the enlightenment factor of concentration. Whatever concentration there is, without thought, directed and sustained, is also the enlightenment factor of concentration. Thus what is spoken of concisely as the enlightenment factor of concentration becomes by this method of exposition twofold. Stop here for a moment. So concentration accompanied by thought, directed and sustained is the first jhana. And concentration without thought, directed and sustained is the second jhana, third jhana and fourth jhana. Whatever equanimity there is regarding internal dhammas is the enlightenment factor of equanimity. Whatever equanimity there is regarding external dhammas is also the enlightenment factor of equanimity. Thus, what is spoken of concisely as the enlightenment factor of equanimity becomes by this method of exposition twofold. This, monks, is the method of exposition by means of which the 7 factors of enlightenment become 14. This sutta is not that important, just that sometimes the Buddha these external ascetics want to come and argue with him, so he says these kind of things. Okay, the next sutta is more important, 46.53. Then in the morning, a number of monks dressed and taking the bows and robes entered Savatthi for alms. That means the monks went for alms round as the previous sutta, and then encountered the wanderers of other sects. And the wanderers of other sects asked them, what's the difference between the Buddha's teachings and their teachings? And the Buddha said, monks, when wanderers of other sects speak thus, they should be asked, friends, when the mind becomes sluggish, which factors of enlightenment is it untimely to develop on that occasion? And which factors of enlightenment is it timely to develop on that occasion? Then friends, when the mind becomes excited, which factors of enlightenment is it untimely to develop on that occasion? And which factors of enlightenment is it timely to develop on that occasion? Being asked thus, those wanderers would not be able to reply, and further, they would meet with vexation. For what reason? Because that would not be within their domain. I do not see anyone, monks, in this world with its devas, Mara and Brahma, in this generation with its ascetics and Brahmins, its devas and humans, who could satisfy the mind with an answer to these questions, except the Tathagata, or a disciple of the Tathagata, or one who has heard it from them. On an occasion, monks, when the mind becomes sluggish, it is untimely to develop the enlightenment factor of tranquility, the enlightenment factor of concentration, and the enlightenment factor of equanimity. For what reason? Because the mind is sluggish, monks, and it is difficult to arouse it with those things. Suppose, monks, a man wants to make a small fire flare up. If he throws wet grass, wet cow dung, and wet timber into it, sprays it with water, and scatters soil over it, would he be able to make a small fire flare up? No, venerable sir. So too, monks, on an occasion when the mind becomes sluggish, it is untimely to develop the enlightenment factor of tranquility, the enlightenment factor of concentration, and the enlightenment factor of equanimity. For what reason? Because the mind is sluggish, monks, and it is difficult to arouse it with those things. On an occasion, monks, when the mind becomes sluggish, it is timely to develop the enlightenment factor of investigation of Dhamma, the enlightenment factor of energy, and the enlightenment factor of delight. For what reason? Because the mind is sluggish, monks, and it is easy to arouse it with those things. Suppose, monks, a man wants to make a small fire flare up. If he throws dry grass, dry cow dung, and dry timber into it, blows on it, and does not scatter soil over it, would he be able to make that small fire flare up? Yes, venerable sir. So too, monks, on an occasion when the mind becomes sluggish, it is timely to develop the enlightenment factor of investigation of Dhamma, the enlightenment factor of energy, and the enlightenment factor of delight. For what reason? Because the mind is sluggish, monks, and it is easy to arouse it with those things. Let's stop here for a moment. So when the mind is sluggish, like we are having sloth and torpor, then it is not the right time to try to concentrate the mind when the mind is having a lot of sloth and torpor. At that time, it is more beneficial to investigate Dhamma and use energy. So this investigate Dhamma for us can be like if we are in our kuti, we can read the book in the morning when we are feeling a bit sleepy. You read the book and then you become quite interested. And the other one about energy, it's like you find it difficult to sit in meditation, and then we walk and get our energy going. So maybe when you use energy, then say like in walking, then maybe the delight may start to arise. On an occasion, monks, when the mind becomes excited, it is untimely to develop the enlightenment factor of investigation of Dhamma, the enlightenment factor of energy, and the enlightenment factor of delight. For what reason? Because the mind is excited, monks, and it is difficult to calm it down with those things. Suppose, monks, a man wants to extinguish a great bonfire. If he throws dry grass, dry cow dung, and dry timber into it, blows on it, and does not scatter soil over it, would he be able to extinguish the great bonfire? No, venerable sir. So too, monks, on an occasion when the mind becomes excited, it is untimely to develop the enlightenment factor of discrimination, of investigation of Dhamma, the alignment factor of energy, and the alignment factor of delight. For what reason? Because the mind is excited, monks, and it is difficult to calm it down with those things. On an occasion, monks, when the mind becomes excited, it is timely to develop the alignment factor of tranquility, the alignment factor of concentration, and the alignment factor of equanimity. For what reason? Because the mind is excited, monks, and it is easy to calm it down with those things. Suppose, monks, a man wants to extinguish a great bonfire. If he throws wet grass, wet cow dung, and wet timber into it, sprays it with water, and scatters soil over it, would he be able to extinguish that great bonfire? Yes, noble sir. So too, monks, on an occasion when the mind becomes excited, it is timely to develop the enlightenment factor of tranquility, the enlightenment factor of concentration, and the enlightenment factor of equanimity. For what reason? Because the mind is excited, monks, and it is easy to calm it down with those things. But recollection, monks, I say, is always useful. So recollection is recollection of the Dhamma mainly in as far as the 7 Bojjhangas are concerned. So when the mind is excited, it is a good time to calm it down by sitting down to meditate. The mind is excited, our chi is moving, so maybe when you sit down, it calms down. The next sutta is 46.54. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling among the Kolians, where there was a town of the Kolians named Halida Vasana. Then in the morning, a number of monks, dressed and taking their bows and robes, entered Halida Vasana for alms. Then it occurred to them, it is still too early to walk for alms in Halida Vasana. Let us go to the path of the wanderers of other sects. Then those monks went to the path of the wanderers of other sects. They exchanged greetings with those wanderers, and when they had concluded their greetings and cordial talk, sat down to one side. The wanderers then said to them, Friends, the ascetic Gautama teaches the Dhamma to his disciples thus, Come, monks, abandon the 5 hindrances, the corruptions of the mind that weaken wisdom, and dwell pervading 1 quarter with the mind imbued with loving kindness. Likewise, the 2nd quarter, the 3rd quarter, and the 4th quarter, thus above, below, across, and everywhere, and to all as to oneself, dwell pervading the entire world with the mind imbued with loving kindness, vast, exalted, measureless, without hostility, without ill will. Dwell pervading 1 quarter with the mind imbued with compassion. Likewise, the 2nd quarter, the 3rd quarter, and the 4th quarter, thus above, below, across, and everywhere, and to all as to oneself, dwell pervading the entire world with a mind imbued with compassion, vast, exalted, measureless, without hostility, without ill will. Dwell pervading 1 quarter with a mind imbued with joy. Likewise, the 2nd quarter, the 3rd quarter, the 4th quarter, thus above, below, across, and everywhere, and to all as to oneself, dwell pervading the entire world with a mind imbued with joy, vast, exalted, measureless, without hostility, without ill will. Dwell pervading 1 quarter with a mind imbued with equanimity. Likewise, the 2nd quarter, the 3rd quarter, and the 4th quarter, thus above, below, across, and everywhere, and to all as to oneself, dwell pervading the entire world with a mind imbued with equanimity, vast, exalted, measureless, without hostility, without ill will. We too, friends, teach the Dhamma to our disciples thus. Come, friends, abandon the 5 hindrances, etc. And he quoted exactly as above. So, friends, what here is the distinction, the disparity, the difference between the ascetic Gautama and us, that is, regarding the one Dhamma teaching and the other, regarding the one manner of instruction and the other. That those monks neither delighted in nor rejected the statement of those wanderers. Without delighting in it, without rejecting it, they rose from their seats and left, thinking, we shall learn the meaning of this statement in the presence of the Blessed One. Then when those monks had walked for alms in Halida Vasana and had returned from the alms round, after their meal they approached the Blessed One. Having paid homage to him, they sat down to one side and reported to him the entire discussion between those wanderers and themselves. So actually just now they said the Buddha thought that we should pervade the entire world with these four things: metta, loving kindness, then karuna, compassion, and then mudita, joy, and then upekkha, equanimity. So they say, we also practice the same thing, so what's the difference? Then the Buddha said, monks, when wanderers of other sects speak thus, they should be asked, friends, how is the liberation by mind of loving kindness developed? What does it have as its destination, its culmination, its fruit, its final goal? How is the liberation by mind of compassion developed? What does it have as its destination, its culmination, its fruit, its final goal? How is the liberation by mind of joy developed? What does it have as its destination, its culmination, its fruit, its final goal? How is the liberation by mind of equanimity developed? What does it have as its destination, its culmination, its fruit, its final goal? Being asked thus, those wanderers would not be able to reply, and further, they would meet with vexation. For what reason? Because that would not be within their domain. I do not see anyone, monks, in this world with its devas, Mara and Brahma, in this generation with its ascetics and Brahmins, its devas and humans, who could satisfy the mind with an answer to these questions, except the Tathagata, or a disciple of the Tathagata, or one who has heard it from them. And how, monks, is the liberation by mind of loving kindness developed? What does it have as its destination, its culmination, its fruit, its final goal? Here, monks, a monk develops the enlightenment factor of recollection, accompanied by loving kindness, the enlightenment factor of investigation of Dhamma, the factor of energy, etc., accompanied by loving kindness, based upon seclusion, dispassion and cessation, maturing in release. If he wishes, may I dwell perceiving the repulsive in the unrepulsive. He dwells perceiving the repulsive therein. If he wishes, may I dwell perceiving the unrepulsive in the repulsive. He dwells perceiving the unrepulsive therein. If he wishes, may I dwell perceiving the repulsive in the unrepulsive and in the repulsive. He dwells perceiving the repulsive therein. If he wishes, may I dwell perceiving the unrepulsive in the repulsive and in the unrepulsive. He dwells perceiving the unrepulsive therein. If he wishes, avoiding both the unrepulsive and the repulsive, may I dwell equanimously, mindful and clearly comprehending. Maybe this one is collected and mindful. Then he dwells therein, equanimously, collected and mindful. Or else he enters and dwells in the deliverance of the beautiful. Monks, the liberation by mind of loving kindness has the beautiful as its culmination, I say. For a wise monk here who has not penetrated to a superior liberation. Stop here for a moment. So here, the Buddha is saying that if a monk develops the enlightenment factors, or the 7 enlightenment factors, and it's accompanied by loving kindness, then the mind becomes strong, because if he has developed the 7 enlightenment factors, he would have attained the 4th jhana, and then further if he practices this loving kindness meditation, then the mind becomes strong, so that if he wants to perceive the repulsive or the unrepulsive, the mind is so strong that he can. Normally, our mind is conditioned. So when we see something, we feel it is attractive or repulsive. But we can actually, this perception can be changed. For example, if we see the body of the opposites, the body of someone of the opposite sex, it may appear attractive. But if we train our mind on the 32 parts of the body to see the body in terms of all the 32 things, then if the mind is strong enough, then it can feel that the body, instead of being attractive, it is repulsive. So here, this person has trained the mind so that he can perceive repulsive or unrepulsive as he wishes. And then also the culmination of this liberation by mind of loving kindness meditation as the beautiful as its end result. This beautiful is the third of the 8 deliverances. The 8 deliverances are this atta vimokkha. So this he perceives beautiful, everything beautiful. So this is the, if this monk has not attained enlightenment, then this is the culmination of his meditation of liberation by mind of loving kindness. The topmost he can achieve is to perceive beautiful. And how monks is the liberation by mind of compassion developed? What does it have as its destination, its culmination, its fruit, its final goal? Here monks, a monk develops the enlightenment factor of recollection accompanied by compassion. He develops the enlightenment factor of investigation of Dhamma accompanied by compassion. He develops the enlightenment factor of energy accompanied by compassion, etc. If he wishes, may I dwell perceiving repulsive in the unrepulsive. He dwells perceiving the repulsive therein. If he wishes to perceive the unrepulsive, then he does so. If he wishes avoiding both the unrepulsive and the repulsive, may I dwell equanimously, mindful and collected. Then he dwells therein, equanimously, mindful and collected. Or else with the complete transcendence of perceptions of forms, with the passing away of perceptions of sensory impingement, with non-attention to perceptions of diversity, aware that space is infinite, he enters and dwells in the base of the infinity of space. Monks, the liberation by mind of compassion as the base of the infinity of space as its culmination, I say. For a wise monk here who has not penetrated to a superior liberation. Stop here for a moment. So here, a monk practicing liberation by mind of compassion, the topmost point is to attain this arupa jhana, called the base of the infinity of space. If this monk has not attained liberation, he would attain this arupa jhana, base of infinity of space. And here is one of those suttas which contradicts the later books like the Visuddhimagga. In the Visuddhimagga, it is stated that this practice of meditation on metta, karuna, mudita and upekkha can only go up to the rupa jhanas. This is mentioned in the back of the book, in the note number 111. Look at the note 111. It does say that there is a contradiction with the Visuddhimagga. So a lot of people are not familiar with the suttas. They take the later books like that as though it's the words of the Buddha. Actually, there are contradictions. And how monks is the liberation by mind of joy developed? What does it have as its destination, its culmination, its fruit, its final goal? Here monks, a monk develops the enlightenment factor of recollection accompanied by joy. He develops the enlightenment factor of investigation of Dhamma accompanied by joy. He develops the enlightenment factor of energy accompanied by joy, etc. If he wishes, may I dwell perceiving the repulsive. He dwells perceiving the repulsive. If he wishes, may I dwell perceiving the unrepulsive. He dwells perceiving the unrepulsive. If he wishes, avoiding both the unrepulsive and the repulsive, may I dwell equanimously, mindful and collected. Then he dwells therein, equanimously, mindful and collected. Or else by completely transcending the base of infinity of space, aware that consciousness is infinite, he enters and dwells in the base of infinity of consciousness. Monks, the liberation by mind of joy has the base of the infinity of consciousness as its culmination, I say. For a wise monk here who has not penetrated to a superior liberation. Stop here for a moment. So one who practices the meditation on mudita, liberation by mind of mudita, the topmost point, if he does not become liberated, is to attain this second rupa jhana, called the base of the infinity of consciousness. This again is a contradiction with the Visuddhimagga. And how monks is the liberation by mind of equanimity developed. What does it have as its destination, its culmination, its fruit, its final goal? Here monks, a monk develops the enlightenment factor of recollection accompanied by equanimity. He develops the enlightenment factor of investigation of Dhamma accompanied by equanimity. He develops the enlightenment factor of energy accompanied by equanimity, etc. He develops all the enlightenment factors accompanied by equanimity. If he wishes, may I dwell perceiving the repulsive, he dwells perceiving the repulsive. If he wishes, may I dwell perceiving the unrepulsive, he dwells perceiving the unrepulsive. If he wishes, avoiding both the unrepulsive and the repulsive, may I dwell equanimously, mindful and collected. Then he dwells therein equanimously, mindful and collected. Or else by completely transcending the base of the infinity of consciousness, aware that there is nothing, he enters and dwells in the base of nothingness. Monks, the liberation by mind of equanimity has the base of nothingness as its culmination, I say, for a wise monk here who has not penetrated to a superior liberation. That's the end of the sutta. So here, if a monk practices meditation on upekkha, equanimity, and if he does not become enlightened, then he can attain up to the third arupa jhana, the base of nothingness. This is again a contradiction with the Visuddhimagga. It says that when you practice meditation on the four Brahma Viharas, this Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekkha, the most you can attain is the four jhanas. And also I've noticed in the Visuddhimagga also it says that if you practice Anapanasati, the most you can attain is four jhanas. But in the suttas, the Buddha says if you practice Anapanasati, you can attain all the four arupa jhanas up to the cessation of perception and feeling. So again contradicts the Visuddhimagga. So have to be very careful. Nowadays some monks they believe everything in the Visuddhimagga and the Abhidhamma. They don't know. There's a lot of contradiction with the early suttas.